Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Have you ever paused in the middle of your heartbreak and asked yourself, why me? Have you ever looked at your life, the delays, the disappointments, the unexpected turns, and wondered, what is Allah trying to show me? Sometimes the most profound spiritual journeys begin with questions we whisper through tears, thinking no one hears them, but Allah does. There is something you may not realize. You are not living a series of accidents. You are walking through a carefully crafted story written by the one who knows the secrets of your heart better than you ever will. Nothing that happened to you was random. Nothing broke you without purpose. Allah placed you exactly where He knew your soul could rise. Allah says that He is closer to you than your jugular vein. If He is that close, then how could your pain be meaningless? How could your tears be unnoticed? You think you're walking alone, but the truth is, Allah has been guiding each step, even the steps that felt like you were falling. And yes, humans break, hearts shatter, expectations crumble. You get tired of waiting, tired of hoping, tired of starting over. You wonder why life keeps testing you. But have you ever noticed that the people Allah strengthens the most are the ones He tests the most? That the hearts closest to Him are often the ones He softens through trials? This is what sabr truly means. Not simply enduring the storm, but trusting that the storm has been sent by the one who loves you. Sabr is the quiet conviction that even when you don't understand the plan, you trust the planner. Sometimes Allah withholds because He wants to redirect. Sometimes He delays because He wants to elevate. Sometimes He breaks you because He wants to rebuild you upon sincerity, reliance, and unshakable faith. And sometimes the things you begged Him to remove were removed because He heard a conversation your heart was not aware of. Remember, the Prophet taught us that when Allah loves a servant, He tests them. Not to punish them, but to polish them, to bring them closer, to clear the noise so you can finally hear your own soul calling out to its Creator. So when you feel alone, know this, you were chosen. When you feel broken, know this, you were chosen. When you feel lost, know this, even that is a sign that Allah is guiding you back to Him. Your struggles are part of a greater narrative, one where every tear, every prayer, every late night whisper, and every moment of surrender becomes a testimony of your journey back to the most merciful. Healing is already happening, even if you don't feel it yet. Peace is already being written for you, even if it hasn't reached you yet. Just keep walking, keep trusting, keep remembering Him, because nothing in your life is a coincidence. Allah has chosen you, and that is the beginning of everything. Every difficulty you face is not a random disruption to your life. It is a deliberate part of Allah's design, placed with precision, wisdom, and divine intention. When we go through hardships, our first reaction is often confusion. Why is this happening? Why now? Why me? But if you pause and look deeper, you will see that every challenge you encounter carries a lesson meant specifically for your heart. Allah does not send trials to break you. He sends them to shape you. He knows what qualities within you need to grow, what weaknesses need to be softened, and what strengths need to be awakened. Sometimes Allah places you in moments of discomfort so you can rise beyond the limitations you set for yourself. If life were always easy, your faith would remain dormant. Growth needs pressure. Diamonds form under intense conditions, and in a similar way, the believer's heart becomes polished through challenges. These difficulties push you to pray when you have forgotten to pray, to reflect when you have been distracted, and to return to Allah when your heart has wandered too far. When you experience loss, Allah is teaching you detachment. When you experience delays, He is nurturing patience. When you face unexpected changes, He is preparing you for something greater. Every tear you shed, every frustration you feel, every moment you think you cannot bear, these are all part of a spiritual blueprint custom designed for you. Allah knows your capacity, your potential, and the exact moment when your heart needs a gentle push or a powerful shake. So when hardship visits your life, remember that it didn't arrive without purpose. It is part of a divine curriculum crafted with love. These experiences are not punishments, they are invitations, callings to rise, return, and reconnect with the one who knows you better than you know yourself. Your pain is not a random event drifting through your life. without purpose. It is a deliberate, meaningful signal placed by Allah to redirect your heart toward what truly matters. Often we look at pain as something purely negative, something to escape as quickly as possible. But in the unseen world of the soul, pain is one of the most powerful forms of guidance. It awakens parts of you that comfort never could. It shakes you from spiritual sleep. It forces you to look inward, to confront yourself, to reevaluate your priorities, and to remember the one you may have overlooked in moments of ease. Sometimes Allah allows your heart to break because He wants to rebuild it upon a foundation that is stronger, cleaner, and closer to Him. Pain exposes what your heart has been holding on to, attachments, fears, desires, expectations that may have quietly taken the place where only Allah belongs. When something hurts deeply, it is often because Allah wants you to return deeply. He wants to remove the illusions you built and replace them with truth, sincerity, and clarity. There are moments when the pain you feel is actually a form of mercy. Without it, you might continue walking down a path that harms you. Without it, you might never realize how much you need Allah. Pain slows you down so you can notice what you were too busy to see. It humbles you, softens your heart, and opens doors for prayers you never would have made otherwise. And in those moments of vulnerability, when you cry, when you break, when you whisper to Allah in desperation, those moments are honored in ways you cannot imagine. Your pain is not a punishment, it is a divine invitation. An invitation to rise higher in faith, to heal from illusions, and to feel the sweetness of relying on Allah alone. Allah chooses certain people for certain tests, because He knows the strength hidden within them, strength they might not even recognize in themselves. There are qualities inside you that only emerge when life places you under pressure. Just as fire reveals the purity of gold, tests reveal the purity of your heart. What you may see as weakness or brokenness is often the beginning of a spiritual transformation Allah has already prepared for you. Sometimes you look at your life and wonder why your journey feels heavier than others, why you experience heartbreak while others seem at ease, why your prayers come from a place of desperation while others speak effortlessly of joy. But what you don't see is the unique spiritual potential Allah has placed within you. He knows your capacity, the depth of your faith, the endurance of your heart, and the possibilities He has written for your future. And because He knows you completely, He gives you tests specifically designed to elevate you. These tests are not given because you are weak, they are given because you are capable. Allah entrusted you with these struggles because He wants to bring out a version of you that could never appear during moments of comfort. Hardships unlock patience, resilience, humility, and sincerity. They turn ordinary believers into extraordinary ones. When Allah chooses someone for a trial, it is not a sign of distance. It is a sign of closeness. It means He wants to purify you, strengthen you, and bring you nearer to Him. It means He sees something in you that you may not yet see. Every difficulty is a divine recognition of your hidden strength, your hidden faith, and the hidden light within your soul. These tests, Allah is not trying to break you. He is preparing you for something greater, something only those chosen by Him can carry. Tawakkul begins the moment you stop trying to control everything and finally accept that the one who created you is already in control. As humans, we cling to our plans, our expectations, and our timelines. We convince ourselves that if we think enough, try enough, worry enough, we can somehow manipulate life into giving us what we want. But life does not bend to anxiety, it bends to Allah's command. And real peace enters the heart only when you stop fighting reality and start trusting the one who designed it. Trusting Allah doesn't mean you stop trying. It means you try with effort but surrender the outcome. You work, but you no longer panic. You plan, but you no longer fear failure. You pray, but you no longer attach your heart to how or when Allah must answer. Tawakkul is that quiet confidence that even if things unfold differently than what you wished for, they will unfold exactly as they should. Every time you let go of a worry, you create space for calm. Every time you release an expectation, you create space for blessings you never eye. Tawakkul is not blind, it is rooted in certainty that Allah sees what you cannot see. He knows the people who would harm you before you meet them. He knows the paths that would destroy your peace before you walk them. He knows the opportunities that would distract you from Him before they ever appear. And so sometimes He closes doors not to deny you, but to protect you. The moment you say, Ya Allah, you know and I do not, is the moment your heart breathes again. Because you realize that you were never meant to carry the weight of every decision, every fear, every expectation. Letting go is not losing control. It is handing control back to the one who never makes mistakes. That is where true tawakkul begins, and that is where your soul finally finds rest. Allah's timing is not just perfect, it is purposeful. Every delay you experience, every moment that feels like life is moving slower than your prayers, is actually unfolding with divine precision. We often assume that if something is taking long, something must be wrong. But in reality, Allah is not delaying to punish you. He is delaying to prepare you. There are things your heart is not ready for yet, blessings you might mishandle, lessons you have not yet learned, and spiritual maturity you have not yet reached. Allah holds back not to deprive you, but to elevate you. Think of the moments in your life when you rushed into something before you were ready. The emotional mess, the confusion, the regret. These are reminders that timing matters, and only Allah perfectly knows the right time. Sometimes the delay is there to protect you from making a mistake that would echo through your life. Sometimes Allah waits until your heart is purified enough to receive the blessing with gratitude rather than arrogance. Sometimes He delays because the thing you are asking for is still being shaped, arranged, or guided in the unseen world. You might feel forgotten when your dua seems unanswered, but in truth, every dua has already been heard, recorded, and taken into divine consideration. Allah sees the path behind you, the path beneath you, and the path ahead of you. You only see a moment, He sees eternity. And because His knowledge is infinite, His timing is flawless. What feels like a pause to you is actually preparation. What feels like silence is actually mercy. If Allah gave you everything the moment you asked, you might never grow. You might never learn patience. You might never discover the beauty of trusting Him. Delays teach you to surrender, to breathe, to rely. When the timing finally aligns, you will look back and realize that the wait was one of the greatest gifts, because it shaped you into the very person capable of receiving what you were meant for all along. Sabr is often misunderstood as simply enduring pain in silence, but in reality, it is one of the most powerful and active forms of faith. It is not about sitting helplessly in your struggles. It is about standing firmly with hope, trusting that Allah's wisdom is far greater than your immediate understanding. Sabr is a state of the heart, a quiet resilience that grows when you choose trust over panic, surrender over resistance, and calm over chaos. It is the courage to keep walking even when you cannot see the destination. When you are struck by hardship, Sabr guides you not to fall into despair. It teaches you that your story is not defined by the moment you are in, but by the one who controls all moments. Sabr means you acknowledge the reality of your pain, you feel it, you cry through it, you struggle with it, but you do not let it convince you that Allah has abandoned you. Instead, you remind yourself that this storm is part of a divine process meant to transform you into someone stronger, wiser, and spiritually refined. True Sabr is rooted in hope. It is fueled by the belief that every difficulty is temporary, every hardship has an end, and every test carries hidden mercy. It is not passively waiting for life to get better, it is actively choosing to believe that it will, because Allah has promised that after hardship comes ease. Sabr does not eliminate pain, but it gives it meaning. It teaches you that even when everything feels heavy, your faith can carry you through. Sabr is also a shield. It protects the heart from bitterness, resentment, and hopelessness. It keeps you connected to Allah when your emotions try to pull you away. Every moment of patience is recorded, rewarded, and loved by Allah. With sabr, every tear becomes a seed for future blessings. Every struggle becomes a ladder to higher ranks, and every trial becomes a doorway back to the peace only Allah can give. Your heartbreak and disappointments are not meaningless interruptions in your life. They are sacred instruments through which Allah purifies and elevates your soul. There are certain transformations that can only happen when the heart cracks open. When everything is going smoothly, we rarely stop to reflect, rarely question our direction, and rarely look inward. But when the heart breaks, reflection becomes natural. Suddenly, life slows down, priorities rearrange, illusions fall apart, and you begin to see yourself and Allah with a new clarity. Sometimes Allah allows a heartbreak because the attachment you held was quietly pulling you away from Him. You didn't notice it growing. You didn't notice your heart leaning too heavily on a person, a plan, or a dream. But Allah did. He knows that if He does not intervene, your heart will settle in a place where it does not belong. And so He removes what you cling to, not to harm you, but to protect you from a deeper loss, the loss of your connection with Him. Disappointments often come when we expect life to follow our script, forgetting that Allah's script is far more beautiful, even if it feels painful in the moment. When something you wanted so deeply slips away, it is not a sign that you are unworthy. It is a sign that Allah is shielding you. Sometimes what breaks your heart today would have broken your faith tomorrow. And sometimes the heartbreak itself becomes the doorway to a more sincere relationship with Allah. Through these experiences, Allah cleanses your soul of arrogance, dependence on creation, and attachment to temporary things. He teaches you humility, teaches you reliance, teaches you the fragile nature of dunya. Heartbreak softens you, makes you more empathetic, more aware, more spiritually awake. It brings you back to dua, back to humility, back to the realization that only Allah is constant. In the end, the pain that once felt unbearable becomes the very reason you rise in faith. What felt like loss becomes a form of divine rescue. And what felt like the end becomes the beginning of a deeper connection with the one who never leaves your heart empty unless He intends to fill it with something greater. True healing begins the moment you internalize the promise that Allah does not burden any soul beyond its capacity. This is not just a verse to be memorized. It is a divine reassurance meant to transform the way you view every difficulty in your life. When Allah tells you He will never give you more than you can handle, He is telling you something intimate about yourself. You are stronger than you think, more capable than you realize, and more supported than you can see. Your pain is real, your struggle is valid, but your capacity is greater than both, because it is Allah who measured it. Sometimes you look at your situation and think, I cannot do this, I cannot take another step, I cannot bear another disappointment. But your earth keeps beating, your soul keeps fighting, and somehow you keep moving. That somehow is not coincidence. It is divine assistance. Healing begins when you stop telling yourself you are weak and start recognizing that Allah has already equipped you with the resilience required for your tests. This verse teaches you that your circumstances are perfectly tailored. If something is in your life, it is because Allah knows you can rise through it. If something is taken away, He knows you can survive without it. If something breaks you, He knows how that very break can shape you. Nothing about your test is accidental. It is measured, calculated, and wrapped in mercy, even when it doesn't feel like it. Healing also begins when you stop comparing your struggles to others. Allah did not design your test for someone else, and He did not design theirs for you. Each soul carries what it can bear. What feels heavy to you might feel light to someone else, and what someone else carries effortlessly might crush you. This uniqueness is part of Allah's wisdom. When you embrace this truth, you stop fighting reality and start moving with it. You begin to breathe differently, pray differently, and think differently. You realize that every step you take, even the shaky ones, are steps Allah already knew you could manage. And in that realization lies the beginning of deep, lasting healing. Healing rooted not in the removal of pain, but in the certainty that Allah walks with you through every moment of it. Qadr teaches you that nothing touches your life except what Allah has written for you out of mercy, protection, and divine wisdom. This truth is not meant to make you passive. It is meant to give your heart peace. When you understand Qadr, you stop blaming yourself for what was never in your control and stop worrying about what was never meant to be yours. You begin to see life through a softer lens, one where every event, every delay, every heartbreak, and every blessing has been carefully placed with purpose. There are moments when you feel life is unfair, when you feel something was taken too soon or given too late. But Qadr reminds you that timing is never random and gifts are never accidental. What reaches you could not have missed you, and what misses you could not have reached you. This is not fate working blindly, it is Allah protecting you, guiding you in position, in you for what your soul truly needs. If you had received everything you wanted, you might have harmed yourself without realizing it. And if everything you feared had reached you, your heart might have broken beyond repair. Qadr is Allah's shield around you even when you don't recognize it. Often, people replay moments in their minds wondering, what if I had done this differently? But Qadr teaches you to let go of these loops. The past is written, sealed, and purposeful. The future is in the hands of the one who loves you more than anyone in creation. Your job is not to rewrite destiny. Your job is to trust the one who wrote it. When you truly grasp Qadr, a deep calm settles in your chest. You stop chasing what runs away from you because you know anything written for you will return. You stop fearing loss because you know Allah never takes without giving. You stop feeling lost because you know every step is already guided. Qadr is not just a belief, it is a comfort, a healing, and a reminder that your entire story is in the hands of the most merciful. When Allah removes something from your life, it is never an act of deprivation. It is an act of divine rearrangement. So, each time Allah takes away what you are holding on to because He knows it is too small for the heart He is shaping within you. What you think is a loss is often the beginning of a greater blessing, a cleaner path, or a deeper spiritual awakening. Allah does not take to hurt, He takes to replace. He takes to elevate. He takes to purify. We often cling to people, opportunities, and dreams with the belief that our happiness depends on them, but Allah knows what you cannot see. He knows which relationships would eventually break you, which paths would lead you away from Him, which achievements would fill you with arrogance, and which desires would leave you empty. So when something leaves your life, suddenly or slowly, it is not chaos. It is Qadr unfolding with mercy. You may feel confused, abandoned, or heartbroken when things fall apart, but what falls apart is often what was never meant to stay. Allah removes what blocks your growth so you can rise toward what truly belongs to you. Sometimes He empties your hands so He can fill them with something better. Sometimes He takes away your comfort so He can give you character. Sometimes He removes a person so you can rediscover yourself and connect with Him. Every removal is a space being cleared. Every ending is a preparation. Every loss is a realignment. Allah does not close a door without having already opened another. Perhaps one you cannot see yet because you are still facing the old one. When you look back later, you will realize that what you cried for losing was actually a shield Allah placed around you. You will see how the path He redirected you toward brought more peace, more growth, and more iman than the one you begged Him to keep. What left you was not meant for your future. What is meant for you will never leave. And everything Allah takes away, He replaces with something perfectly timed, perfectly suited, and far greater for both your dunya and akhirah. Your journey back to Allah often begins in the moments when everything else in your life starts to fade. Sometimes it takes the collapse of what you once relied on to finally recognize the one who never collapses. When people disappoint you, when plans crumble, when certainty turns into confusion, that's when your soul begins to search for an anchor that doesn't move, and the only true anchor it finds is Allah. This return is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it begins quietly, through a tear you didn't expect, a dua whispered without words, or a moment of stillness where your heart says, I need Him. Many times you don't come back to Allah because life is perfect, you come back because life is painful. Hardship softens you in ways comfort never can. It breaks the illusions of self-reliance, revealing how fragile dunya truly is. And in that vulnerability, your heart becomes receptive, open, humble, and ready to be guided. Allah uses these moments not to push you away, but to draw you closer. He knows that when everything feels uncertain, your soul will seek the certainty of His presence. What you may not realize is that the longing you feel, the emptiness, the discomfort, the restlessness, is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that your soul is awakening. Allah places discomfort in your life not to punish you, but to remind you that you were never created to feel complete without Him. He lets certain doors close so you stop chasing the world and start seeking Him. He lets certain people leave so your heart finally turns toward the one who never leaves. The journey back to Allah is not linear. It is full of falling and rising, forgetting and remembering, breaking and healing. But every step you take, even the imperfect ones, are steps He already knew you would take. Your return was written long before your mistakes, long before your fears, long before your heartbreaks. What matters is not how far you drifted, but how sincerely you turned back. And when you do return, slowly, quietly, imperfectly, you will find that Allah was never far. He was closer than your pain, closer than your thoughts, closer than your breath. Your journey back to Him is the most important journey of your life. And it often begins when everything else fades, so that only He remains. Remembering Allah softens wounds that nothing in this world can heal. There are pains that no words can comfort, no people can understand, and no distractions can erase. These are the wounds of the heart, silent, heavy, and lingering. But the heart was never designed to heal through dunya. It was created to heal through connection with its Creator. When you remember Allah, when His name settles on your tongue and His presence settles in your heart, something begins to shift inside you. What felt unbearable becomes lighter. What felt I begins to fill. What felt broken begins to mend. There is a reason why the Quran describes remembrance as something that brings tranquility to the heart. This world pulls you in 1,000 directions, but the remembrance of Allah pulls you back to yourself. It reminds you who you are, where you are going, and who is in control. Dhikr is not just repetition, it is realignment. It brings your scattered thoughts, emotions, and worries back into harmony. It reminds you that you are held, watched, cared for, and guided even when life feels overwhelming. When you say Subhan Allah, you remind your heart that Allah is greater than your fears. When you whisper Alhamdulillah, you remind your soul of blessings that pain tried to make you forget. When you say Allahu Akbar, you place your problems beneath the greatness of the one who can solve them. And when you say La ilaha illallah, you free your heart from attachments that only exhaust it. The beauty of remembering Allah is that you don't need perfect faith to start. You just need sincerity. Even a broken heart can make dhikr. Even trembling lips can make dua. Even a weary soul can call upon Him. And Allah responds. He listens. He comforts. He brings light to places where you thought light could never return. When you make Allah your refuge, your heart begins to experience a peace the world cannot give and cannot take away. Remembrance becomes healing. Healing becomes strength. And strength becomes a bridge back to hope. Through remembering Allah, wounds that seem permanent slowly begin to fade, replaced by a quiet, unshakable calm rooted in His mercy. Every tear you shed for the sake of Allah is seen, counted, and honored in ways far beyond what your heart can imagine. None of your pain goes unnoticed. Human beings may overlook your struggle, they may never fully understand the depth of what you carry, but Allah does. He knows the tears you hide, the prayers you whisper, the battles you fight silently. He knows the nights you lie awake in confusion, the moments you break but force yourself to keep going, and the times you choose faith, even when your heart feels weak. Not a single tear that falls from your eyes is wasted. Every tear has a place in your story and a reward written by the most merciful. When you cry to Allah, you are not showing weakness, you are showing trust. Tears shed in His remembrance are a form of worship, a sign of a heart that is still alive, still connected, still yearning for Him. In fact, some of the highest ranks in the sight of Allah are given to those who cry out of fear, love, and humility before Him. Those tears are a testimony that despite everything, you still turn to Him, still believe in His mercy, still see Him as your refuge. Sometimes life becomes so overwhelming that the only thing your heart can do is break open before Allah. And that moment, though painful, becomes one of the most beautiful moments of your life, because that is when Allah, mercy, descends upon you in ways you cannot see. Those tears wash your soul. They cleanse pain you didn't know you were carrying. They soften a heart hardened by disappointment or fear. They bring you closer to Allah in a way comfort never could. Your tears are not a sign of failure. They are proof that your connection with Allah is still alive. Every tear shed for Him is recorded with compassion, rewarded with love, and returned to you in the form of strength, clarity, and tranquility. Even when you flee, invisible to the world, you are never invisible to Allah. He sees every tear, and He turns each one into a means of lifting you, healing you, and bringing you nearer to Him. Highlights a deeply transformative reality. When a believer sincerely turns to Allah during Tahajjud, especially in moments of fear, weakness, or uncertainty, Allah grants them a unique form of courage and inner stability that cannot be compared to any worldly source of confidence. This courage is not loud or aggressive. It is a quiet, powerful strength that settles inside the heart, allowing a person to face difficulties with remarkable calmness. Many people rely on external achievements, wealth, or status to feel secure. But those who rise in the last part of the night discover that true strength comes from knowing that Allah is with them, watching over them, and guiding them. Tahajjud becomes a source of spiritual reinforcement, where the heart is softened through tears yet strengthened through connection. This nighttime prayer removes fear from the heart because a person has already stood before the Lord of the worlds, when the rest of creation is asleep. Facing the world becomes easier when one has already humbled themselves before Allah. The worries that feel heavy during the day begin to lose their power because the believer learns to hand them over to Allah. This is why many scholars and righteous people throughout history spoke about Tahajjud as the prayer of the brave. Not because it is physically demanding, but because it builds an inner bravery that no difficulty can break. During Tahajjud, Allah places tranquility into the heart, helping a person make clearer decisions, remove doubts, and overcome internal struggles. The courage that comes from Tahajjud is not temporary, it becomes part of a person's character. They walk through life with a steady heart, trusting Allah's plan, ready to face challenges with dignity, patience, and unwavering faith. Through Tahajjud, a believer learns that courage is a gift from Allah, granted to those who seek Him sincerely in the quietest hours of the night.